The mental status exam is a structured way of describing a client's psychological functioning at any given point in time. The mini mental status exam that I'm going to talk about today is a standardized and quantified version that is used primarily as a screening instrument to separate clients with cognitive impairment from those without it. You learned about these 8 areas of inquiry for the mental status exam in the talk from YouTube by Dr. Singh and from the web page entitled 10-Point Guide to Mental Status Examination in Psychiatry. Both of these resources provide a number of questions you might ask in order to assess each area. Remember that your final report for this course must include an assessment of these 8 areas in the report. Actually, the 10-Point Guide talk identified 10 areas of a mental status exam by separating mood from affect and insight from judgment. Whether we talk about 8 areas or 10 areas, these are more like the points to be addressed in a report. There are no standard questions, no statistics, and no norms for these areas. The mini mental status exam is a widely used test of cognitive functioning. It is primarily used in an elderly population or with clients at risk for neurological or cognitive dysfunction. It is more of a structured interview than the mental status exam, and it produces a score. You can see that these 5 areas overlap with the 8 or 10 areas from the mental status exam, but both have some unique areas as well. Now let's go through each of these areas in detail, including how to administer them and how to score them. Orientation gets a total of 10 points and has 2 components, time and place. Each component gets 5 points. Time is assessed by asking for the date. If any of the 5 items are omitted, you can ask for specifics. For example, can you also tell me what season it is? Some months can be 2 seasons. For example, March is either winter or spring, June is either spring or summer, September is either summer or fall, and December is either fall or winter. 1 point is awarded for each of those 5 elements. Place is assessed by asking what town, county, and state are we in, followed by what is the name of this place or building, and what floor of the building are we on. Inquiry for specifics is allowed, and 1 point is awarded for each of the 5 items. Registration is the first step in the cognitive skills of memory and learning. New data is taken into the brain and stored in immediate memory. To administer this task, you say, I am going to name 3 objects. After I have said them, I want you to repeat them back to me. Remember what they are, because I will ask you to name them again in a few minutes. Apple, table, penny. Record the number of items recalled for the first trial. Do not repeat the items until after the first trial. If all 3 objects are not named in the first trial, repeat the list of objects and record the number of items recalled correctly for the second trial. You can do up to 6 trials to get all 3 objects named, recording the number correct for each trial and repeating the list for each trial. The score is the number of objects recalled in the first trial. After completing this task, tell the client, try to remember the words, as I will ask for them in a little while. To assess attention, ask the client to begin with 100 and count backwards by 7s. Stop after 5 subtractions. That would be 93, 86, 79, 72, 65. If the client cannot or will not do the serial 7s, ask them to spell the word world backwards. The score is the number of letters in the correct order. To assess recall, ask the client, what are the 3 objects I asked you to remember a few moments ago? They can be recalled in any order, but there are no trials for this segment. The assessment of language and praxis has several different items. Show the client a wristwatch and ask them what it is. Repeat with a pencil. Score 1 point for each correct naming. Next, ask the client to repeat the following. No ifs, ands, or buts. Enunciate clearly and include the S at the end of the 3 words. Allow only 1 attempt. Next, give the client a piece of paper and say, take this paper in your right hand, fold it in half, and put it on the floor. Score 1 point for each part of the command that is correctly executed. Next, on a piece of blank paper, print the sentence, close your eyes, in letters large enough for the client to see clearly. Ask the client to read the sentence and do what it says. Score 1 point only if the client actually closes his or her eyes. Next, give the client a blank piece of paper and ask them to write a sentence for you. Do not dictate a sentence. It should be written spontaneously. The sentence must contain a subject and a verb and make sense. Correct grammar and punctuation are not necessary. Finally, show the client the picture of 2 intersecting pentagons and ask them to copy the figure exactly as it is. All 10 angles must be present, and the 2 figures must intersect to get the score of 1 point. There are several ways to interpret the score obtained with the MMSE. A score of 24 or below is generally considered abnormal. A score of 21 or below indicates increased odds of dementia, while a score of 25 or above indicates decreased odds of dementia. The cutoff score can be adjusted based on educational level. Finally, a score from 0 to 17 is characterized as severe cognitive impairment, and a score of 18 to 23 is characterized as mild cognitive impairment.